To support this channel and continuing to provide quality and accessible music education programming, please consider donating to the links in the description or in the pinned comment. Thank you. Janis Lynn Joplin was born to a working middle-class family in Port Arthur, Texas, in 1943. In her formative years, Janis's views on things such as racism and sex made her an outcast among people in her conservative town. It was then that she found solace in the music that reflected the hardships and difficulties of everyday life, the blues.
Don't it blow just like it ain't never blowed?
All of a sudden it broke down all my fears and the way I was supposed to act and sit and talk. It just made me completely full of emotion.
The sounds of blues icons such as Lead Belly, Bessie Smith, and Memphis Minnie are reflected in her earliest recordings.
Give me whiskey, or give me bourbon, give me gin.
Listening to Janis's earliest recordings, the first noticeable thing is that she has the style of the blues down packed.
My head and neck was paining me, feel like my back won't break in two.
I got the voice one blues, I'm gonna spread the news all around.
When non-black artists find inspiration in music forms that are traditionally associated with black artists, some artists such as Taylor Dayne focus more on replicating the sound of the black voice.
Ask you because your voice was so amazing, and I remember hearing you on BLS, which for us was a black radio station, so I immediately thought you were black. Did you? Because like
they did that on purpose.
While others such as Tina Marie understand the style. When a singer focuses on the style of the music as opposed to the sound, it generally provides a more authentic listening experience to the audience, because style can only be learned through experience and exposure. Operatic soprano Renee Fleming discussed this when she was learning how to sing rock music.
How is it for your voice to spend, an evening out on stage at the Met and then come into the studio the next day, drop down the octave and sing with a almost completely different part of your instrument?
I had so much to learn of style and text and rhythm. I mean, to get a different sense of rhythm, which is very different from jazz. Jazz is much freer, rhythmically speaking, than rock music is. Rock, you really do need to be closer to the beat a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. And it was a blast to learn about these things that I had really never known.
Janis sounds like someone who hung out and sang in the blues bars because she did. The other noticeable thing about Janis's early recordings is that there is a lack of raspiness in the voice, which would eventually become her trademark sound. That is because a voice does not start out raspy. Raspiness or airiness in the voice is a product of vocal damage, vocal distress, and misuse. In 1963, Janis relocated from Port Arthur, Texas to the Haight-Ashbury district of San Francisco, California, known today as the birthplace of hippie counterculture. Drugs, music, and spirituality were at the core of the hippie movement, as these people believed that these things could liberate and transform individuals and society. After performing at various coffee shops and bars in the area, Janis joined the band Big Brother. Three songs from her time with the band can be looked at to better understand her life, artistry, and her voice. When you say the name Janis Joplin, people often think of a power singer. But among her most famous recordings is her reimagining of the George Gershwin classic Summertime from the African-American opera Porgy and Bess. Two muscles control the voice. The TA muscle, which controls the chest voice and low notes. And the CT muscle, which controls the voice's high notes. Most of the singing in Summertime is not powerful or heavy in the typical Janis Joplin vocal style. And that is because she uses a lot of CT muscle or a head voice dominant sound to create a lighter sound. To match the music and the lyrics, because Summertime is a lullaby. Dynamics is the ability to control the volume of a pitch. Some people can only sing loud, others can only sing soft, but Janis demonstrates her ability to do both on the same pitch.
Don't you cry.
One of Janis's earliest reviews in the Village Voice stated, "It at times sounds like she's harmonizing with herself." And you can hear that prominently throughout Summertime. Understanding why Janis's voice comes across as self-harmonizing requires an understanding of how vocal cords are supposed to function. This is how a vocal cord is supposed to function. When the vocal cords are closing properly, it produces a clear tone. When the cords aren't closing properly, it allows more air to pass through them. You can hear this airiness in Joplin's voice when she sings softly. But the self-harmonizing quality that many say she does is just air passing through different openings in the vocal cords. In the summer of 1967, Big Brother performed at the Monterey Pop Festival, where Janis's performance of the Big Mama Thornton classic Ball and Chain won her critical acclaim, with newspapers calling her a mix of Aretha Franklin, Bessie Smith, and James Brown. And this would lead to Janis and Big Brother landing a record deal with Columbia Records. On their Columbia debut, Janis would turn Irma Franklin's Piece of My Heart into a massive pop hit. The success of this song and its accompanying album would motivate Janis to form her own band and pursue a solo career. In the fall of 1969, Joplin would release her solo debut album, I Got Them Old Cosmic Blues Again Mama. The album features hits such as Maybe. While Summertime shows Janis's ability to coordinate the TA and CT muscles to produce a lighter mixed voice, on songs such as Maybe, we hear Janis using a full sustained use of the head voice or the CT muscle. What you will notice in Janis's head voice is that there is still a buzzing or raspy quality to it. And that's because there is no register in her voice or part of her range that produces a clear tonal quality. Even when she speaks, you will notice that the speaking voice is raspy as well.
I don't know, it's not feminine, maybe, that's why. I mean, to get out and really get into music, get on the bottom side of the music instead of float around on the top like most chick singers.
By this point in her career, Janis was reportedly doing on average $200, the equivalent of $1,600 today, worth of drugs daily. And most of the time, if you see her in an interview, on stage, or just out and about, she has a cup of alcohol in her hand, or she has a cigarette. Drugs, cigarettes, and alcohol all dry the voice out. For her voice to go from this to this, in less than 5 years, speaks to the extent to which she did these activities and just how unhealthily she was living. The extent of Janis's vocal damage and how that translates to a unique sound can best be understood on the song Try. Try has many high E's. And with Janis, many different things would happen on that note. There were days like this where she's knocking down high E's like it's nothing. Then there are performances like this. Where the note cracks up an octave. This is known as a pitch break. You've probably heard this from James Brown. Get on up! You might have heard it from Tina Turner. And Mariah Carey once mentioned she discovered her whistle register because the raspiness in her voice would turn into a clear, high tone.
It's almost where my voice would go into a rasp, but instead it becomes this solid, high tone.
Well, how does this happen? Janis consistently does drugs, smokes, and drinks. We even see her doing these things on stage. These things irritate the vocal cords, generally causing swelling of the vocal cords. When the vocal cord is swollen, it causes the singer to work harder or strain to reach the notes.
Yeah, I'm on the
When it looks like Janis is working hard to hit these high E's, it's because she is. Straining the voice leads to nodules. Nodules are a bump or bumps on the vocal cords that prevent the cords from closing properly. When the voice breaks on certain pitches, that is a sign of nodules. Another sign of nodules is the voice cutting out completely, which we can hear in this attempt. This performance is special because at one moment she can hit the note. But then the voice breaks when she tries to do it again. And then another time, the voice will cut out on the same note. This right here speaks to how nodules can cause the voice to become completely unpredictable. When people first heard Try, they would say, "Oh my gosh, she is too loud for the microphone." And this is how Janis became associated with being one of the biggest and most powerful voices in popular music. A flat tongue and an open throat is the key to creating a powerful, resonant sound. When Janis sings, the tongue is flat and there's a lot of open space in the mouth. So, yes, Janis is using the space to create volume. A flat tongue and an open throat are also how classical singers can project their voices without a microphone. Now ask yourself, have you ever heard a classical singer with a raspy voice? The answer is no, and that's because raspiness limits the voice's ability to project. This is what scientists and sound engineers refer to as sound versus noise. Sound is pleasant to hear with constant pitch and periodic motion. Noise is unpleasant to hear, constantly varying in pitch and with no regular periodic motion. Singing with an open throat can help the voice produce harmonics and overtones. The human ear is more sensitive to harmonic sounds, and a harmonically rich sound will always register as being louder to a sound meter. And if we recall, people said it sounds like Janis harmonizes with herself. Raspiness is considered a form of vocal distortion. We've all been to a concert where the microphone suddenly got loud and scared the audience. That's because distortion adds noise to the microphone signal. Adding noise to a sound makes it noisy, so humans will perceive it as being louder. And that's the reason why the word "got" sounds almost too loud for the microphone. But you will notice "got" is the only word in the phrase with a lot of rasp. It's the same way that in this performance, Janis's high E sounds like it is overpowering the microphone. But the rest of the notes in the phrase don't have that same punch and power. Understanding the concept of sound versus noise is why other singers with raspy voices such as James Brown and Tina Turner, to whom Janis is often compared, are said to be screaming and hollering. It's not saying that these women don't have big voices, but it is saying that they have big voices in addition to a lot of noise in the sound. And people have different tolerances for noise. And it is because of sound versus noise that this song and this album were not well received upon its release. Cosmic Blues is considered a classic today, but Janis was slammed by black and white audiences alike when it was initially released. White critics were angry that she was no longer making rock-oriented music similar to her time in the band Big Brother, and they even went as far as to ask her to stop trying to be Aretha Franklin. Black audiences said, if Aretha's around, who needs Janis?
Say
Janis's rise in popularity came from singing music that was originally done and associated with black artists. Opinions were so strong about what Janis was doing that it would spark debates about whether or not white audiences should be allowed to sing the blues.
When you learn that I love you, you gonna love me too.
After Janis, we begin to see a rise in more soulful white women on the music scene, such as Bonnie Bramlett, Kathy McDonald, and Bette Midler.
Who do you go to listen to, Janis, if you want to really have a... Who are your favorites?
Tina Turner.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Tina Turner.
Yeah.
While Janis was always open about her influences and where her music came from, you have to wonder, was the pressure she faced from both sides responsible for her shift towards a more rock-oriented sound in her follow-up album, Pearl?
I tell you it don't seem to bother me no.
We'll never know, because the death of Janis Joplin left many unanswered questions about her life and her career. But when you think about her voice, the question is, if drugs are why she was able to be fearless on stage, and if drugs are why she sounded the way that she did, what would she have sounded like if this voice was in a healthy and well cared for body? Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. Until next time.